show on a Sunday morning in Las Vegas. I'm Brian Feldman, and this is Out of Line. We're here every Sunday morning at 8 on Fox Sports Radio, 98.9 FM and 1340 AM, flagship of the Vegas Golden Knights and sister station of Raiders Nation Radio. Me and social media director Spencer "The Wiz" Ostrovsky.
Nobody beats the Wiz. Nobody beats the Wiz.
I knew it was there. That's right. Spencer does have his own theme music, and well-deserved. But we're coming to you live from the Residential Bank Corp offices in Henderson, Nevada, and producing the show back in the Fox Sports Residential Bank Corp studio is Chris Magnum Chapman, who is also the locker room reporter for the Vegas Golden Knights radio network. The reason we are located in different places is because the pandemic that began in March of 2020 continues to keep the majority of us out of the Fox Sports radio studios and working remotely. One day, God willing, Lotus Broadcast, maybe they'll let us come home, Spencer. I want to come home. E.T., phone home, man. The show's also streaming on the LV Sports Network, and you can watch the show on Facebook Live and YouTube. The page is called Out of Line. That's OUTTALINE. Watch the show on Instagram and Twitter, and follow the show at Out of Line Fox LV. And since we are live, your calls and questions are welcome. The Fox Sports Residential Bank Corp studio line is 702-876-1340.
Hi, this is Bubby, and it's time for What's on Tap.
What's on Tap, brought to you by title sponsor Residential Bank Corp. Whether purchasing a new home or refinancing the home you currently own, Residential Bank Corp is the company to turn to for all your home financing needs. Residential Bank Corp, funding America one neighborhood at a time. And don't forget to ask about the new incredible discounted payment options on move-in ready Wedgwood homes, available right now all over Las Vegas and Henderson. Call 702-964-5720 for details and to get information on all the home financing options currently available in the state of Nevada. On tap, the Vegas Golden Knights regular season is off to a perfect start. We'll hear from Bruce Cassidy and a couple of the Vegas Golden Knights players in a minute. What was a 3-game UNLV very promising winning streak has turned into a very ugly 2-game losing streak with a bye week and then a very tough road ahead. We'll talk about that. The Major League Baseball playoffs are one team away from both league championship series being set. And if by any chance your Major League playoff bracket is still perfect, give us a call right now so I can put you on the show and call you a bold-faced liar directly to you personally, because there's no way in hell you're picking this one out. The Raiders are on their bye week, and it probably couldn't have come at a better time for Josh McDaniels. If you've been watching, you know why. We'll talk about that. And it's week 6 in the NFL. We'll highlight the big games. Don't place your football bets until after you've heard from the Scooper with today's pick and parlay. That's what's on tap if you are looking to buy a home or to refinance the home you currently own. Choose a company you can trust. Residential Bank Corp, funding America one neighborhood at a time. Call 702-964-5720 for details on all your home financing options in the state of Nevada today. Fumbling a little bit, but it has been an incredible weekend of sports to this point. Got some big games going on today, both football and a huge playoff game in the divisional playoffs. The final could be the final one for the New York Yankees, unless they find a way to beat the Cleveland baseball team. Is it okay if I call them the Cleveland baseball team? I don't think that's wrong, right? Can I just call them that? I'm sorry. I just can't wrap my arms around the Guardians. I'll talk to you about that later on. It just sounds like a professional lacrosse team. Nothing wrong with a professional lacrosse, a real cool sport, but it's not Major League Baseball. And of course, Cleveland, a long-time team, maybe not with a lot of success, but a name that goes back a long time. We won't mention it, but we'll call them the Tribe. How's that? I can call them the Tribe, right? That's what my friends that live in Cleveland call them right now. They call them the Tribe, so we'll do that. I'm getting way out of line here, but then again, that is the name of the show. Listen, before I get way off mark, Spence, let's go ahead and get to Nightcap.
Hockey players, as you know, are warriors. They don't give up. They come to play every game.
It's time for Nightcap, a cupful of the Vegas Golden Knights. From highlights to interviews to special events, the puck starts here.
All right, there we go. Hope you hear Magnum. Okay, cool. I can hear a little bit. There we go. Just a little issue with that. So, hey, real quickly, I should say the puck does start here, and huge start for the Golden Knights. I don't think that unexpected or that surprising. It's the third time, though, in their brief 5-year history, they've started 3-0. They started against the LA Kings. I had that as a loss in my book initially, even though it was game one. The last two games, I did expect them to win. We did expect them to beat Chicago, although I think Chicago is going to be a better team than most of us expected before the start of the season. Looks like they got a pretty good netminder, and they played really well against the Golden Knights, both ends of the ice. They played in the neutral zone well. The Knights snuck out of there with a 1-0 win, their first home win, and then, of course, they went up to Seattle, a team that hasn't found a remedy to beat the Golden Knights yet. They're 0-5 overall, and yesterday was their 5th consecutive loss to the Golden Knights in their brief history, which started last year. Knights win big. They had 5 goals after 2 periods. It looked like Adin Hill maybe pitch another shutout because of the night before. We had our ace goaltender pitch a shutout, Spencer, and now to see Adin Hill come in and follow up what Logan Thompson did the night before was pretty good. And all of a sudden, we feel better about our goaltending, I think, a little bit now, although it is pretty early. So we will have to see. What I will say at this point in time, Chris, and I know you're back there, you've watched this. What we're seeing is an exciting brand of hockey. We're seeing a coach that I really think even reminds me a little bit of Gerard Gallant and the fact the players like him. He kind of made a funny in the first home press conference when somebody asked him about them missing in the empty net. And he said, I want to see the puck go in the net. I mean, that's the object of the game, right? But before we get to you, Chris, real quickly, I do want to play what Bruce Cassidy did have to say after the game in the press conference, kind of the way he came in and started that off.
So that part of it means we're hitting our goals. You also have the process part where you want to play the right way so that you can win on a consistent basis. And today there was pockets of that. There's pockets there wasn't. We weren't good enough, and other nights it'll cost us. So we'll look at that part too. I mean, you always have to, but it's a tough league to win, and that's our job is to win. So we've done that. So we've checked a major box. At the end of the day, I thought we were better in LA, cleaner than we were tonight. So we'll focus on that and get ready for Seattle now and see if we can keep getting better. Nobody awards anything in October, but you can't get behind the 8 ball either. So fortunate for us, we're not. We're 2 wins, but let's keep building our game.
Oh, there we are. We're back. Okay. Sorry about that. I'm having a little technical difficulty hearing you, but I should be okay. But Bruce Cassidy, as you can hear, does like what he's seeing from the Vegas Golden Knights, is pretty happy with the way that they are they're getting things done right now, Spencer. And I know that's really big as far as them liking what's going on with the Vegas Golden Knights. And and him being happy with the team, seeing the goaltending the way that it is, having 2 goaltenders when everyone was concerned who was going to be the starter. I think people felt comfortable with Logan Thompson getting the initial nod. Adin Hill, they weren't sure about. I'm not sure what's going to happen when Laurent Brossoit comes back. We're not going to see Robin Leonard this year, so we don't have to worry about that controversy till next year. But I think what we've seen in the first 3 games, especially the pitching a shutout in game 1, I should say the first home game against the Chicago Blackhawks, and then you have last night against the Kraken, Adin Hill pitches a shutout for literally there was like 6.5 minutes to go in the third period before he gave up his first goal. That really bodes well for the Golden Knights, at least moving forward at this point. Chris, happy with what you've seen from them so far?
Yeah, look, three wins or 3 games, 3 wins. You certainly can't complain about that. Every game, a little bit of a different type of victory. Game 1, you had to grind out that win against LA. You get the late goal from Mark Stone, which was, I don't know if you could have scripted it any better. Game 2, you come home opener against a Blackhawks team on the second night of a back-to-back. Tough start for the Blackhawks, but they certainly showed up to play here in Vegas, and it turned out to be a really good game. And you got Paul Cotter, who was kind of the story of training camp, step out on the ice, come off out of the penalty box, and he scores the winning goal in that game for a 1-0 win. And then last night you get the absolute demolition job of the Seattle Kraken. Look, Keegan Colasar gets the Golden Knights on the board 12 seconds into the game. He's the guy who I anticipate having a really good season for the Golden Knights. You know, it's the same story with him where he puts himself in really good positions. It's just a matter of him finishing, and I think we're going to see a little bit more of that from him this year. Jonathan Marchessault has the 2 goals. Riley Smith with the goal last night. But, Brian, I mean, look, you certainly can't complain with the way that this season has started. I'm sure Bruce Cassidy is probably watching the video, and he's probably not thrilled. There's probably other things, because he seems like he is a perfectionist, as I imagine all hockey coaches are. But what I notice with Bruce Cassidy is he tells it like it is. Like, he doesn't sugarcoat things. And the key thing for me that really stands out is Bruce Cassidy holding people accountable. Right? Accountability was a word that was thrown around a lot last year in the locker room, and it almost to the point where it sounded like there wasn't any accountability last season. I don't know how accurate that is, but there's accountability this year, because you've seen Bruce Cassidy will put guys out of the lineup one night. He will bump guys down in the lineup if they're not playing well. And I think that's a lot to be excited about, Brian.
You know, the fact is he will mix up lines. He already has. I like what he's doing. I like the fact that the line change. A lot of people were surprised with maybe the opening night roster and not seeing some of the guys like Ben Hutton, who we thought we probably would for sure see to start the season up with the Golden Knights, and not to be. And yet a guy like Paul Cotter, who had a great camp, ends up coming up with the Golden Knights and plays well right off the get-go. Who would have thought that his second period goal against the Chicago Blackhawks would have been the only goal, the deciding goal in the game? And what a big goal for this kid. He doesn't turn 23 until November. Kid out of Michigan, so you know I love him. And he doesn't like the Detroit Lions. He's not a football fan, which is kind of cool. But you know, really, really a neat thing when talking about this game. And we're going to get to Paul Cotter in a minute. I had a chance to talk to him after that win. Chris also had a chance to talk to Riley Smith in the locker room after the Vegas Golden Knights win over Chicago, and he also talked about, Riley Smith also talks about the play of Logan Thompson, which has been key to the Golden Knights. They're earning his confidence. I think they already have. I think he did last year, but really cool to see, as Chris mentioned, Marchessault 2 goals in the game last night, 3 goals in. Marchie already has 3 goals in 3 games. You know, he didn't get a goal, obviously, in game 2 where they only scored 1, but he's led this team in scoring in 2 of the first 5 years. And what a great start for this kid this year. You can't beat it. Riley Smith, a big goal from Mark Stone last night. You want to see Riley Smith score goals early. That was good. Colasar, as Chris mentioned, 8 seconds into the game, a really, really nice goal, getting that very quickly in the recognition. And, you know, they just never really looked back. They really looked good. And it was also nice seeing Shea Theodore get his first goal of the season. He rounded out the scoring in the second period when it became 5-0. And they really kind of sat on the lead a little bit in the third, which gave Seattle a chance to score a couple of goals. But they have Seattle's number to this point, 5 wins against Seattle. You know, what's really cool is 8 Vegas Golden Knights players in 3 games have all lit the lamp, which is huge. You have 11 Golden Knights players that have accumulated points already in 3 games. That is excellent. You've got a shutout. You nearly had 2. This is the kind of start you want to see this team get off to. And the prominent guys, Mark Stone having a goal already, Jack Eichel, of course, have scored a goal, all of them multiple points. It's really big. And I think everyone, all but maybe 5 players on the team last night had at least 1 shot on goal. You can't beat that. And that's what they're looking for. I know that's what Bruce Cassidy's looking for when he talks about this team. But as I mentioned, after the game in Chicago, I did have a chance to catch up with Paul Cotter and talk to him about getting his first goal of this season and it coming early and ended up being the game winner, which I think even surprised him.
Quick, Paul. You take that penalty and then you get out of the box. How cool is it to be able to get out and redeem yourself that quickly?
Oh, yeah, that's a special feeling. That's cool. I was shaking in the box. I don't know if it was the best call by him, but should have had my feet moving. And they did a great job. Our penalty kill did a great job. As soon as I got off the box, I just wanted to get to the bench right away. And they went the other way, so I went into the zone and got a lucky break. So thankful I cashed in on that one. I needed it.
As you said, second game, first goal of the season. Great to get that one out of the way, move forward. But how big was that for you?
It's big. Well, I did the same thing last year, so now I need to make sure I do better than last year. So the next game's even more important.
Did you think for a minute that goal was going to hold up and be the only goal of the game?
Not a chance. Never would I imagine that one. But hey, it worked out. So.
Thanks, Thank you.
For him, we needed it, right? It's the only goal of the game. So he can shoot the puck. We know that. He's got separation speed. We know that. You know, he's working on trying to get inside. We saw a lot of that in LA. Didn't quite finish, but again, we'll take goals from everybody. The mark of a good team is if your top guys don't have it a certain night or aren't finishing, or your power play doesn't. You need other people. Today it only took one, so team defense obviously deserves some credit. PK got it done. Logan happens to be Paul's the guy tonight who scores, and we'd like to see more. But we did see it in training camp, so this is not a big surprise. He's been pretty consistent from day one.
And Paul Cotter, I think this kid has a tremendous upside. The cool thing was the enthusiasm he showed after he scored the goal in that Chicago game. You know, that typical, come on, let's go, but you love to see it. And I really like this kid. I think he is a great addition to this team. I think Brett Howden, another tremendously young, talented player, and of course Logan Thompson, all those guys playing on the Henderson Silver Knights the majority of last season together. Really cool to see them all coming up this year and showing that the feeder system works at every level, and especially right here in Las Vegas. It's kind of nice to get a chance to see the Silver Knights just down the road from here. As a matter of fact, man, we're like a mile away from Dollar Loan Center Arena, so pretty cool. But that being said, Chris also had a chance after the game. He spoke to Riley Smith a little bit, and I like the questions. The last question when Chris asked him about the gold carpet was kind of funny, and Chris followed on. But Chris had a chance, and this is what Chris does, man. You can see what he does in the locker room after the games.
Yeah, he's got a lot of confidence himself. He's come in camp and he wanted to prove himself to everyone. I think he's done that. And I don't think he's going to take a step back. So he's a talented goalie, and I think he's going to keep on taking steps forward.
How important is it for the confidence of the team to win tonight the way you guys did?
Yeah, you're going to have to win a lot of different ways when you're playing 82 games and a lot of different opponents. So it was nice to get a win tonight. We weren't perfect, but some big saves, some good clears. It goes a long way. So we'll take the win, move on, and we'll have a much different opponent next time.
When you guys have an opening night like tonight, there's a little bit of maybe, I don't want to say nervous anticipation, but maybe sometimes you sit in the locker room a little long, or there's a little bit longer pregame than usual. Does that kind of throw your rhythm off a little bit?
I didn't notice anything like that. I think our media team and everyone doing the in-game broadcast, they do a good job. So we know the timing of everything way in advance, so you can time yourself accordingly. It's nice to be back in this building with a full crowd. They give us a lot of energy, and it's big for us to win because support is huge here.
How cool is the gold carpet?
Yeah, it's cool. It's not my cup of tea exactly, but it's nice to be able to interact with the fans. They're here supporting us all the time, so it's nice to be able to get back.
I kind of like that Riley Smith's not a gold or red carpet type of guy, man. That's just the bottom line. It's whether he liked it or not was the difference. It's just not his thing. He's like, Riley is one of those guys. When you say lead by example, I mean, Riley Smith's picture could be put next to that. He's one of those players that just goes out there, puts in the work, plays as hard as anybody on the Golden Knights team, and might be one of those guys, one of the intangible players that you don't realize if you're not a true hockey fan. I know, Mags, you definitely realize how valuable a guy like Riley Smith is to a hockey team. There was a reason he wears the A for being one of the alternate captains, and there's a reason he is still with this team as being one of the inaugural misfits, for lack of a better term. But Riley Smith is a big part of this team, and it was nice to see him get a goal last night.
Yeah, Riley's the guy who quietly just goes about and does his business. Doesn't take a lot of penalties, but he's a guy that you can rely on night in and night out to go out there and do his job. Sometimes a guy's measure is not always, or a guy's worth is not always measured in just goals and assists, although Riley certainly provides that. It's leadership in the locker room that he provides. He leads by example. He like I said, he's one of those guys who I I've been told that he's a different guy behind when the locker room doors are closed than he is in front of the media. So if that's true, then good on him, because I think he's always been very cordial and good with the media, but he's a guy who has a lot of respect in the locker room, and a guy who from day one has had a lot of respect in the locker room, from Gerard Gallant all the way now through Bruce Cassidy. Respect is earned in the NHL, and Riley Smith is a guy who's gone out since his days of playing. He's had a couple different stops before he got here, but he's always had that respect in the locker room. And he's a guy. Look, the Golden Knights rewarded him again this past summer with a contract extension. Going to pay him $5 million a year. So certainly the team sees the value in Riley Smith. I hope the fans see the value in Riley Smith. I know you and I certainly see the value in Riley Smith. And look, he's a guy who was a good player. He's not an all-star player, but he's a good player, and you need good players. Not every player is going to be an all-star, but Riley Smith is consistent. He goes out and does his job night in, night out, and that's what you need. You need a locker room full of Riley Smiths to be a successful organization, and he's one of those guys. 32 teams around the league, if they had an opportunity to have Riley Smith on their roster, they're certainly going to sign Riley Smith.
Oh, I agree. Riley Smith's the kind of guy that can accentuate other players, turn them into all-stars, because he's a great complementary player. He's solid as a two-way player, an excellent passer, and if you give Riley Smith an opening, he'll put the puck in the net. He does everything you need to do, the little things and the big things, and that's what makes Riley Smith special. I agree with you 100%, Chris. A guy we spoke about last week, ironically, Nicholas Haig, who last Sunday, just a week ago today, we weren't exactly sure what was going to be the future with Nick. He signs a contract, finally, gets himself taken care of. The Knights wanted Nick Haig. He was a future defenseman for this team. I think they saw the upside in a young guy that could play the game, can be a solid defenseman, has good size, good puck awareness. And Nick Haig, we saw him. He's been in all 3 games now. Somebody that I think Bruce Cassidy is counting on is being one of the starting 6 defensemen on this team on a nightly basis. And Chris got a chance to ask Bruce Cassidy about Nick Haig in the post-game press conference after the Chicago game.
Chris Chapman, Fox Sports Las Vegas. Nick Haig signs Tuesday. He's in the lineup tonight. Obviously missed training camp. How difficult is it for a player to just jump into a lineup like that, especially an early season game? And just what did you think of his performance?
I thought Nick was fine. I mean, I'll look at it. There's probably going to be a few burps here and there from rust or not playing. Only he can answer the timing part of it. You're skating, but you're not competing at a high level. So missing time is always, it's like the first exhibition game. A lot of time players are just off because they're not used to it. Bodies flying around them. Full rinks, you know what I mean? The ice condition, all those different things that go into it. Unfamiliarity with some of the players, some of them are new to him. So he'll get better as we go along. Like a lot of our guys, I still think there's other guys that we're still finding our way. I bet Chicago would say the same thing, and a lot of teams throughout the league. That's just the way it is early in the year, and you got to fight your way through it. He's no different.
I gathered from that the bottom line is Bruce Cassidy likes Nick Haig, and I think he was happy with the signing, and I think he was even part of it. We're saying, hey, we need to get this guy signed, and they've got depth now. They've got depth really everywhere, except the biggest question is still goaltending. Regardless of the fact that 3 games they're 3-0, you've had nearly 2 shutouts. It's still going to be a test of time, and it's going to be a test of whether Logan Thompson, because I think to be a starting goaltender in the National Hockey League, you've got to be able to play minimally 50 games. You've got to be in net to be considered the starting goaltender, really more like 55. And then you need a guy that's going to be able to come in and play another, 25 to 30 games for you that can get it done, maybe less. You might have, maybe it'll take a team of goalies, maybe 2 or 3 when it's all said and done, because it's going to be interesting, as I said, when Laurent Brossoit comes back, what is going to happen with him? You got Michael Hutchinson down in the Silver Knights. He's a 32-year-old veteran that really is probably at the tail end of his career. So what is going to happen overall? I think right now, initially, I don't think Bruce Cassidy or the players in the Vegas Golden Knights could be any happier with what they've got net in the first 2 games with Logan Thompson and last night with Aiden Hill. I think that's exactly what you're hoping to get out of him. Aiden Hill, ironically, what maybe people don't know, in his last game in San Jose, he had a shutout. So that would have been back-to-back shutouts, technically for Aiden Hill, which would have been pretty cool. And again, he shut him out until about 6.5 minutes to go in the third period. So overall, a big win. The Golden Knights now, things get tougher. They're on the road again against the Calgary Flames, a team you don't want to look past, but a very winnable game for them. And if they win that game and go 4-0, then they get to come home for 3 games back to T-Mobile Arena. But it is not going to be easy. Talk about opening up with 3 tough games after the initial 4 to get set in. And thank goodness, I think they got the 4 games under their belt, or they're going to have the 4 games under their belt before they come back. Because even though they'll have the friendly confines of T-Mobile Arena, you're going up, you start off this coming Thursday night, it'll be against the Winnipeg Jets. And you already heard Chris talk about Winnipeg pretty much in detail a couple weeks ago, how this is a team that should not be overlooked, as they are going to surprise a lot of people, except for maybe hockey enthusiasts who understand this team is pretty damn solid. Then, after you get done playing Winnipeg on Thursday, you get rewarded with the Colorado Avalanche coming to town Saturday. They look every bit as good as they did last year, if not better. And we're talking about the reigning Stanley Cup champions, probably right now the number 1 rival for the Vegas Golden Knights. I don't know if the Colorado would consider Vegas their number 1 rival, although there's still bitterness of them knocking them out of the postseason a couple of years ago. But Colorado is going to be a tough out and a tough win for any team on any night in the National Hockey League this year. That is a team, I'm not going to say a juggernaut. There's some really good teams in the NHL this year, but Colorado, I mean, these guys, Nathan McKinnon might be as fast of a skater as anybody in the National Hockey League, and this just is not a team you can overlook. They're really strong. Landeskog, as good as any team in the league, as I've mentioned. And then what do the Golden Knights have to end their road trip? Well, on Monday night, a couple nights after that, they get Austin Matthews and the Toronto Maple Leafs coming to town. And the Toronto Maple Leafs are a team on any night that can play as good as anybody in the National Hockey League. And Austin Matthews, top 3 player for sure. Is he the best? Is he not the best? Very, very difficult to say. That will be remain to be seen. So we'll find out about what the Golden Knights are made of in the next 4 games. Calgary again on Tuesday, and then those 3 big home games. I'm looking really forward to that game against Colorado on Saturday night. I don't know that I'll be at the Winnipeg game, but I'll definitely be Saturday night to see them play the Avalanche, and we'll talk about all that next week. So for right now, we'll leave it at this. The Golden Knights, great start to their season, 3-0, as good as anybody could hope. You can't have a better one than that. Let's put it that way. And again, they play again Tuesday night. Let's go ahead with Fact This, Spence.
Fact this. If you don't like the facts, take your ass back to bed. Fact this.
It is a fact. After winning 3 games in a row and 4 of their first 5 games, UNLV's football team was manhandled in a 40-7 loss at San Jose State a week ago, a Friday, and again last night at Allegiant Stadium against the Air Force Academy. This could be a loss that sends them reeling, obviously, in the wrong direction. They lost starting QB Doug Brumfield to an injury a week ago, and he is in concussion protocol, according to Arroyo, and neither backup looked like they can get the job done. Cameron Field, I understand he was last year's freshman of the year in the Mountain West Conference, played 8 games, did an admirable job in filling in for Doug Brumfield when he was hurt last year. He looked completely out of sorts a week ago on the road at San Jose State and looked worse yesterday. I mean, I'll tell you what, he started the game off 2 nice drives, turned the ball over on both of them, a real bad fumble on the opening drive where they took it right down into the red zone. That could have been huge. Didn't work out that way, and that was a problem. And then finally, late in the game in the fourth quarter, Arroyo finally brings in the kid from Tennessee that everyone was waiting to see, Harrison Bailey. I think he had a couple of broken fingers on his non-throwing hand. He was taped up a little bit, and he literally fumbled 2 of the first 3 short shotgun snaps. Now, he didn't really fumble them where they went to the ground, but he mishandled them, let's put it that way. And it may be due to a problem with his fingers. I didn't ask Arroyo about that after the game. I did ask him about Brunfield, and you'll hear that in a little bit. But after the game, this is what Arroyo had to say.
Disappointed in the way we took care of the ball and offensively and put ourselves behind the stakes. That's the bottom line. Disappointed the way we started the game, moved the ball, didn't take care of it, and I got to do a better job as coaches and take care of the football. We've done a good job all season for the most part, but you can't put yourself behind the 8 ball versus a team that's that effective. And to give them extra possessions is not something that is in the cards in regards to playing this team effectively. So. We got to do a better job. I got to do a better job, and we will. And I'm excited to move on to next week.
And, you heard Roy, what I will say about it. And yesterday I had the opportunity to do the pregame show, pre-game show, let's put it that way, at Allegiant Stadium with Chris Chapman, and then Paloma Villicana from Fox 5 came on with us as well. We were talking about the show. Chris, you heard me. I couldn't have emphasized enough on the pregame show. One thing is a fact, and I said it, Chris, I probably said it 4 to 5 times throughout the pregame show yesterday. One thing is a fact. Air Force is going to run the football. They're not going to throw. They're going to run and run and run. They are the nation's #1 rushing team in the country. They didn't hurt that statistic yesterday with over 400 rushing yards. They've got a 3-headed monster back. They're really 2 really good running backs and a pretty good running quarterback, a guy that can't really throw the ball well. He's not going to throw the ball very much in the game, and he didn't have to. Right from the get-go, they did exactly what we knew they were going to do, what Arroyo and everyone on the UNLV coaching staff was going to do. They were going to run the football. They did it convincingly, they did it effectively, and they exposed UNLV's defense several times in different ways. It was disturbing and disconcerting. We knew that this could potentially happen. And Chris, you made a point yesterday, and I don't want you to backtrack from it now, but you made a point in the pregame show yesterday a couple of times how pivotal of a game this was for both teams and how much a loss could affect both teams. And yet that's exactly what happened. Now, not just a loss, but a loss of this magnitude. What does this do to UNLV going forward?
Well, it sets things back a little bit, Brian, because, the thing is, this team was 4-1 going into a game, 9 days ago at San Jose State. They had an opportunity to really kind of assert themselves as a force in the Mountain West, right? Make a statement that, hey, we are the team that's going to compete for a Mountain West championship. Air Force started the season 1-2 in the Mountain West. They knew any chance that they had of winning the conference hinged on how they did last night, right? If they lose last night, any chance of them winning the Mountain West is gone. Air Force showed up in the big spot. Unfortunately for UNLV, the last 2 weeks have kind of shown that maybe we were wrong about this team. And look, I wasn't in the presser last night. I'm part of the broadcast team with Russ and Caleb, so I didn't get to hear what Marcus had to say. But did anybody ask him about the way that they were setting up the defense? Because if you watch the way that they set things up, there was a cushion. They weren't lining anybody up over the center, and there was a big cushion of like 3 or 4 yards between the line of scrimmage and the first line of defense against their rush attack. I don't know if he was asked about that. I don't know if he gave a reason for that. But Brian, look, the tone was set very early last night in that game when Cameron Friel fumbled on the very first possession, and it wasn't even a big hit. The guy just ripped the ball out of his hands. Then he fumbled again, threw an interception later in the game. I said in the pregame that UNLV would need to play a near-perfect game. The funny thing, Brian, I don't think they had any penalties. I think there was only one penalty called in the entire game last night, and it was on Air Force for a hold late in the second quarter. But, I mean, I guess if there's a silver lining, it's that you didn't commit any penalties. The problem is you had 4 turnovers. The problem is you couldn't stop Air Force all night. Their quarterback completed 1 pass. It got so bad that Air Force finished the game with their third string quarterback in there.
Yep.
They threw 3 passes the entire night, completed 1, and still put up 42 points. UNLV now travels to South Bend, Indiana, and what you were kind of hoping for was, hey, they win this game and the kids can go to South Bend and they can really enjoy the experience, take it in, playing at Notre Dame. Now all of a sudden you're looking at a situation where if you don't win that game, you're now 500 when just a few weeks ago you were 4-4. I'm not going to make excuses. I know their excuses aren't something that fly, but there are reasons. And I think what we saw last night and what we saw against San Jose State is Doug Brumfield is leaps and bounds better than any other quarterback UNLV has on this roster. It's not even close. And the drop-off is significant. And when you take away Doug Brumfield, really you take away any threat that UNLV has to move the ball and put points on the board, because they scored 7 points against San Jose State last week. They scored 7 points against Air Force this week. Brian, that offense, like, we can look at the points, but look at the numbers. They were absolutely shut down offensively. They did nothing. And Aiden Robbins got banged up. He didn't play majority of the game. You're already without Kyle Williams. Brian, things are not looking good right now. On the defensive side, you have Adam Plant, who did not play last night, a late scratch for the Rebels in that one. This team needs to get healthy. And without a healthy Doug Brumfield in the lineup, I don't know if this team, look, the good news is there's some bad teams coming up on the schedule. Reno, Hawaii, Fresno's not very good. But it doesn't matter how bad they are. The margin of error is so thin that if you play like you did last night, you could play Sisters of the Poor, and you're going to lose that game. They got to get healthy, and Brian, they've got to play better. And not just significantly better, they have to play a lot better than what they've done the last 2 weeks. And it's going to start with getting healthy. I mean, we talked about how good Doug Brumfield is, and I've raved about him being the best quarterback I've seen at UNLV since Jason Thomas. I think you see why I made those comparisons and why I've made that comment. Because this is a completely different team without him on the field.
Yeah, there's no question about it, Chris. I said it after watching the game that if Doug Brumfield's in the game, I'm not saying Air Force doesn't still score a plethora of points, because the bottom line is it looked like I was watching the old Oklahoma Wishbone with Brad Roberts and John Lee Eldridge in there. The two of them just were running amok over UNLV. I mean, the bottom line is Zeke Daniels didn't have to do a whole lot at quarterback, just hand the ball off, run a couple of options. It was crazy. I think the beginning of the game, I think on the first drive, I don't know that you let Cam Friel run an option and make a decision. I think you either have him pitching the ball or running the ball. The play was, without question, gave him an option. And I think him thinking about that option is why he didn't secure the football. I don't think you want a quarterback in his second year that's not your regular starter having to make those kind of decisions. Now, again, you would say that's okay, but I don't like it. I didn't like the play call. And, you don't expect the quarterback to hit the ball strip, but I think when he's got other things on his mind, do I pitch? Don't I pitch? Okay, no, I don't pitch. Then he starts running. Next thing you know, the ball's hacked out of his hand. That was terrible. Again, mistakes do happen. But, Chris, we did say it, and I said it a couple of weeks ago, and I'm going to live with this statement. I said it again on the pregame show yesterday. This team will go as far as Doug Brumfield can take them. We said at the beginning, and you see what a difference maker he is. 6'5", 225 pounds, and he's a sophomore. This kid has NFL size, and I think NFL potential. I know it's a huge boast, but I think he's definitely going to get a look at a training camp when it comes time in a couple of years, provided he stays healthy and continues to progress. I did have a chance after the game to ask Coach Arroyo about Doug Brumfield and his health and what's going on with his current situation. This is what he said.
What is the status of Doug Brumfield right now?
His concussion protocol was towards the late stages, end of the week. Did a little workout on Friday, and did some stuff with walkthrough stuff. So again, it's touch and go till they say he's clear to go. See how he is with certain aspects of the environment. There's lights and there's noise and stuff like that. Some things that play into some of that protocol to get tested out of. So hopefully we can get him back on the field here ASAP.
ASAP could not be overextentuated. And he did talk about Aiden Robbins, and it was a knee issue with Aiden Robbins. You never like hearing a knee issue with a running back. And as far as Adam Plant Jr. went, Chris, you talked about him being a late scratch. He was. And when Coach Arroyo was asked about that, actually it was, I believe Paloma asked him that question, and he basically said an undisclosed injury. Didn't talk about it, wouldn't talk about it. And it ended the conversation, ended that question. I mean, one sentence answer. So those are things that are going to have to be corrected, Chris. And as you mentioned, this team absolutely has to get healthy. And you talk about some of the teams on their schedule. I think to them, they'll welcome the bye week to get healthy. I imagine some way, shape, or form, unless there's more to it. Doug Brumfield will be on the field in South Bend to play against Notre Dame a week from Saturday, which will be on the 22nd. Then they go on the road after that. They've got 2 games on the road back-to-back at San Diego State. And Chris, we talked about this yesterday on and off the pre-game show, and that was about, we saw the formula for success against UNLV. San Jose State showed them on defense, you have to punch them in the mouth. Air Force didn't necessarily have the size that San Jose State had, but they punched UNLV in the mouth. 4 turnovers. The physicality level, I saw it intensified with Air Force, which was something I was concerned about, whether they had the personnel to play that kind of football or not. And now you're talking going into Notre Dame, who definitely can be physical. I mean, they outweigh UNLV, out-athlete UNLV. I mean, what do you want to say? You're playing against Notre Dame, who at the beginning of the season was one of a top 10 ranked team in the country. It is going to be interesting to see if UNLV can even compete, and if they don't, and if they get beat up. A week later, they go to San Diego State. Not a great football team, but Chris, this is one of the more physical teams in the Mountain West Conference. And the one thing San Diego State has always preached, even though they've had guys like Donnell Pumphrey that have been some good running backs, some good play, some good wide receivers at San Diego State over history, some good quarterbacks, they are known as a defensive football team. They play defense, and they play physical, a very physical brand of football, and that is the remedy to beat UNLV. So all that spells, I'll say, scary at best for UNLV. So chances are this team could come back to Allegiant Stadium on November the 11th to play Fresno State, a team they should beat, but they could be one game under 500, very likely at 4-5. Now, again, they could win the San Jose State game. I mean, anything is possible. Any given Saturday, let's call it that. But the bottom line is it's going to be tough the next 2 weeks for UNLV. I do think they come back 4-5, and then you've got to find a way to regroup, rejuvenate, pick it up, and find a way to beat a Fresno State team you could get back to 500, and then you're down to 2 games to play. One on the road in Hawaii, which is always a tough game, regardless of the fact Hawaii is not good this year. You got to go there. There's a time change, number one. And number two, it is very tough to stay focused in Hawaii. Hopefully, with maybe their record and understanding a bowl game could be on the line, that's a game they've got to find a way to win. And then, of course, they come home, the biggest game of the year, their rival game against the Wolfpack from that team up north. And that could be the game that comes down to a bowl game. It's at home. The cannon will be there. But again, by no means do you mark that game as a win in the book. So who knows where UNLV is going to be going forward. But again, the broken record is here. If Doug Brumfield does not get back on the field, this team is in trouble. And I think they're going to need, not only are they going to need Aiden Robbins back, Chris, you talked about it a lot, they're going to need Kyle Williams back as well. They're going to need all their horses to make a run to be bowl eligible this year. And that's sad after a 4-1 start when things were looking so promising. I'll leave this conversation at this. I still believe that UNLV is better than they've been in years, but they're just not that good. Real quickly, guys, I can't spend a lot of time as we are running low on time, but how about Major League Baseball playoffs? I knew there was diversity this year. I knew not diversity is probably not the right word. I'll say more parity this year. But it really looked like the cream was rising to the top. 111 wins for the Dodgers. The Padres without Tatis Jr. How do they win a series in the playoffs? Not just one now, they've won 2 series. They won a 3-game series, a 5-game series, and they're headed to the NLCS against the other surprise, Bryce Harper and the Philadelphia Phillies. How cool was that? After the game yesterday, Bryce Harper talked about getting the Phillies to the ALCS. Of course, he's had a tremendous season again, having a good postseason, and Bryce Harper can be a difference maker. And the Phillies match up really well against the San Diego Padres, even though they go on the road to play the Padres starting on Tuesday. But this is what Harper had to say after the game.
This is, step 2 in what we've been through. Step 1 being the wild card, this being the, step 2, and then, we got 2 more. So, the plan all along was to come here and try to win. I just think as an organization, right, we haven't been here for a long time, and to be able to do this and do it with the group of guys that we have and, kind of where we started and now where we're at. I don't think any of us are shocked about where we are. We're really excited about the opportunity ahead for us, and we've taken every opportunity and tried to, go with that. And I can't wait till Friday night when we get back. Of course, we're not going to look ahead, right? We're going to take care of business out on the West Coast and come home and, hopefully have that same opportunity to do this again.
And, that's it. It's going to be a hell of a series. I love the San Diego-Philadelphia matchup. I think it's really cool. I'm very surprised that the Padres were able to put it together. They thought they were getting Tatis back. He gets suspended using performance-enhancing drugs, and here they are in the ALCS or in the NLCS. Really cool. On the other side, Houston, no surprise there. They'll host the ALCS. I think people expected that, but I think they expected them to be playing the New York Yankees. And yesterday, the Yankees blew a 2-run lead in the 9th inning. And you got the sound on that, Spencer. Spencer's going to play that right now.
Here it comes. A swing and a liner back up the middle, base hit into center. Here comes Kwan. Here comes Rosario. The Guardians win.
A walk-off, Spencer, a walk-off for the Cleveland Indians against the New York Yankees to put them up 2-1. Game 3, or I should say game 4, will be in Cleveland a little after 4 o'clock today. And I'll tell you what, man, the Yankees back up against the wall. Aaron Judge, 62 home runs on the season. He finally hit one out yesterday in Cleveland, but laid an egg in the first 2 games. That is unacceptable. You've got to have your star player, the all-time single-season home run leader with the New York Yankees, has got to come through, and they're going to need him the rest of the way. They're going to need all of this step up. They're going to need their pitching to play better, and this is really a scary thing. I mean, I can't believe Major League Baseball right now has got to be shaking their heads. I mean, the last thing they want to see is San Diego play Cleveland in the World Series. As much as I wouldn't mind that as a fan, 2 teams that both are trying to get a World Series victory. Major League Baseball would much rather, I think, see New York now play the Phillies is what I'm sure they're pulling for, 2 bigger markets. But we'll see what happens. I'm pulling for the Phillies and Bryce Harper. Of course, Brian Harper being a buddy of mine, a guy I do business with on my real estate life, for my mortgage life, I'm pulling for the Phillies. And, of course, Bryce being a local guy. So we'll see what happens. But really exciting, man. The MLB playoffs have not disappointed whatsoever. And I think the NFL this year isn't going to disappoint either, as I don't remember seeing this much parity in the NFL in a long time. And let's quickly transition over to the bones and talk about the Raiders. Last Monday night, man, I mean, we're all shaking our heads. They go up 70-0. They look so good on the road against Kansas City. You knew Patrick Mahomes was going to bring Kansas City back. I don't think you knew Travis Kelce was going to get 4 touchdowns in the game, but you knew that the Kansas City would come back. They did come back. They take a lead. Andy Reid makes a horrible decision to go for 2 to try to put them up by 2 scores, midway through the 4th quarter, and thinking we'll go up 9. Instead, they miss the 2-point conversion. They don't convert, and the Raiders get a break. They're only down 7, 1 touchdown, and the Raiders come back, get that touchdown on a big 3rd down conversion to Devontae Adams, his 2nd TD of the game. And then what do? Josh McDaniels decides to go for 2 points. I am still absolutely astonished at that move. I'm not going to agree with anybody. I'm not going to let him blame it on analytics. It was absolutely garbage after you get to come back and you come back in this game. How the hell do you let that happen? I just don't know. I don't know how, because again, to me, when you score that touchdown, there's still over 4 minutes and 24 seconds to go in the game when the Las Vegas Raiders score for what looked like to be a game-tying touchdown. You have all the momentum now. You're on the road. You just lost the lead, and you came back and did this, which no one expected you to do. You're tied with 4.5 minutes to go in the game, and you decide to go for 2. You try to talk about analytics. And, I really like Chris Matthews, and I'm going to play this right now. Chris Matthews asked Josh McDaniels in the press conference on Tuesday. You don't have that one? Oh, Spencer doesn't have it. I sent it to you. But Chris Matthews asked Josh McDaniels about about that, and why he went for 2. And Josh McDaniels basically kind of said, analytics, and we had already made that decision beforehand. I was astonished at the decision. I'm not going to refrain from that whatsoever. It was a horrible move. I know he knows it was a horrible move, and I didn't think he addressed it well enough at the end of the game, because I don't know what you say about it. But the bottom line is, on the road, you've got the momentum. It's like it took the air out of the balloon. And then Kansas City, they're able to stop them, and all they would have had to do was get in field goal range to win the game, instead of trying to get in field goal range to win the game. But if you don't make the field goal, you lose, as opposed to tying and going into overtime. I don't want to hear you don't want to play overtime in Kansas City. I'm sorry. The last team to score in regulation has the momentum. The Raiders would have had the momentum going into overtime. And had they gotten the ball first, anything could have happened. I just a really, really bad coaching decision. And I got to see him make up for that. Spencer, Mags, I got to see him make up for that. I am still bewildered. Like I said yesterday or last week when it happened, I tweeted out that, it took me a long time to comment, because I was repulsed by it. And I'm not, I'm a Detroit guy. I'm a member of the media. I can't really say I'm a Raider fan or not, but I want him to do well. I want him to have success here in Vegas, obviously. That's not the way to get it done. It was really, really bad. And also, after the game, you remember Davante Adams was walking off the field. He had an incident. He runs into a kid on his first day on the job as an assistant to a photographer. Now, granted, the kid didn't look to his right, or he would have saw Davante coming. He just kind of walked across. But Davante didn't just basically walk through the kid, shoved him down to the ground. I don't know about the lawsuit now and that stuff. I'm not going to get into that. The bottom line, huge mistake. And this is the way Josh McDaniel, when brought that question about Davante, this is what he had. Oh, you don't have that either.
I just have to push.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. He didn't have it. Spencer doesn't have stuff. I was going to play that, but Josh McDaniel after the game, I really did not think that what he had to say was appropriate. I think he spent too much time defending Davante Adams and saying, well, he didn't think Davante Adams meant to do it. He knows he didn't mean the guy any harm. Don't say that. Say, wow, that was tragic. He said, look, we don't want that kind of thing. Davante knows that's not what we want to be represented as the Raiders. That wasn't enough. There should have been a devout apology to this camera person. I think he will get fined by the NFL. They had an extra week to decide on this. I think even a 1-game suspension might be in order. You can't open up Pandora's box. And I don't care if you're pissed off. I don't care if you're mad. You absolutely cannot shove a patron down to the ground for any reason, unless maybe somebody runs on the field during a game. I don't have a problem with a player knocking a fan down when they run on the field in the middle of the game. You can't have that. But in this case, absolutely abysmal, disgusting. Raiders next. They got a week off. They go on. They actually come home to play the Houston Texans. I think that's a very forgiving and a good matchup for them. In a week from now, probably make them 2-4, 2-5. It's not good enough, man. I'm sick to my stomach over this. And right now, the Raiders, probably 2-4 after next week, but they've got a long road to haul, and Josh McDaniel really has got to coach better. It's just that simple, guys. I'm not going to pull any punches. Real quick, around the league, we got about 3 minutes left today. Huge game starting up really quickly, really soon here, and that is one of the best matchups, I think, on the game. The Ravens at the New York Giants right off the get-go this morning. Spencer, I'll let you chime in on this. Lamar Jackson having what people consider an MVP season. I saw that in him, but they are 3-2. This is a huge game against maybe the biggest surprise team in the NFL this year, along with the Philadelphia Eagles. Although we knew the Eagles were going to be good, I didn't know that they'd be 5-0 good. But if you would have told me the Giants were going to be 4-1 right now after 5 games, I'd have told you no way. What is with all Giants, other than the fact that the obvious, they got Saquon Barkley back and he's healthy right now, and right now the best running back in the National Football League?
Well, I think it always helps when you don't have, a special teams coach as your head coach. I mean, they've just been mismanaged for a long time. And I think that they really went through the process this offseason, got perhaps one of the best candidates out there, the offensive coordinator for Josh Allen. Now, it looks like Josh Allen's kind of offensive coordinator proof in a sense that anytime you have him on your football team, he's going to be good. But there's no doubt about it. He had a good system there in Buffalo, and he brought it right over, to the Giants. And I think that he's, had a good coaching staff around him. I think the front office is doing a good job. They still have some problems on their team. They actually don't have a very good roster. Kadarius Toney, they drafted in the first round. They gave Kenny Galladay a bunch of money, and he can't do anything with it. But it's coaching to me. It's the biggest difference.
The other great games. We're out of time, but hey, you've also got the Bills playing the Chiefs today at 1:25. Great game, and the nighttime matchup tonight. The Cowboys at the Eagles. NFC East showdown should be great. I want to thank Spencer the Wiz Ostrowski, Chris Magnum Chapman back in studio. I'm Brian Feldman. This is Out of Line, 8 to 9 every Friday morning here on Fox Sports Radio Las Vegas. We'll be back same time, same place next week. Bye bye.